This is the first podcast where I'm getting so political. Yo, what is up? My name is Shavain Bhutani, and welcome to Communications and Health, where we educate you on everything health. Our special guest today is the founder of the Fireworks nonprofit organization, along with collaborating with TEDx and many other programs. He is the real deal. Give it up for Mr. Endeavor Moderetti.
Thank you, Shavain. Hello, everyone. My name is Endeavor. As Shavain mentioned, I'm the founder and president of Fireworks, a nonprofit organization that aims to educate young students and Gen Zers about environmental conservation and financial literacy, two very critical topics that I do think will also tie very closely to our topic at hand today.
Thanks for introducing yourself. This is the first ever podcast, and we are already going to be diving into the economic and political side of health by talking about the rising insulin prices. I want to talk about everything, how insulin functions, the companies manufacturing it, and just everything to know why the price of insulin is so high right now. This podcast will be filled with information from biological to political health, and it's exciting because this is the start of a really long journey in this podcast studio, and we're going to be recording 2 episodes a week. We'll be doing 2 podcasts a week every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. Only 5 stars. If you're not going to leave a 5-star rating, don't bother. So I just want to dive in. So we're going to first talk about what is insulin and just how does it function. Now, insulin is a hormone and it's produced in the pancreas. And it regulates the amount of glucose that's in the blood. And the lack of insulin causes the common known problem of diabetes. And after you eat, your insulin levels are high. So the excess glucose is stored in the liver in the form of glycogen. And insulin also helps with breaking down the fats and proteins in our body. So, Endeavor, how is it used as a medication?
Sure. So insulin, for those who have diabetes, insulin is taken as a supplement to reduce blood sugar levels before eating. So typically, let's say 30 minutes before a meal, a person with diabetes would take an insulin shot. It's typically an injection to raise the insulin levels in their body so that their blood sugar levels can be brought down after they've had a meal. And the number of shots a person takes would vary based on personal factors, but it's typically around maybe 2 shots a day that a person would need.
The amount of people in our world affected by diabetes today is about 415 million people worldwide, and about 10% of them are adults ranging 20 to 79 years. And this number is only going to keep growing. I mean, in 2030, the projections are 578 million people. And in 2045, we're projected to have 700 million people having diabetes. So this is a very big worldwide issue, and insulin is the thing that helps treat it. And it's also what has a really high price right now.
Yeah, and my family actually has, on my mom's side, a long history of diabetes. And my mom was pre-diabetic at one point. And this involved constant readings of blood sugar levels with a blood glucose device to make sure my mom's blood sugar levels were not too high.
Alright, let's talk about the main difference between the 2 types of diabetes. As we know, there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So, for type 1 diabetes, it's a genetic disorder that often shows up early in life. And type 2, the difference is it's largely diet related, and it develops over time. So if you have type 1 diabetes, your immune system is attacking and destroying the insulin-producing cells in your pancreas. And insulin works by helping to move sugar from the blood into other body tissues where it is used for energy. And it also stops the liver from producing more sugar. If you have type 1 diabetes, insulin therapy is vital for replacing the insulin your body doesn't produce. And sometimes a person with type 2 diabetes or gestational diabetes need insulin therapy if other treatments haven't been able to keep up blood glucose levels with the desired range.
Yeah, it's frankly a matter of life and death having insulin for people who are diabetic.
We're going to take 2, and when we come back, we're going to talk about why the price of insulin is so high right now. We are back, everybody, and like I said, we're going to be talking about why the price of insulin is so high right now. So, first we're going to talk about the major drug companies that are inflating the price. And there are 3 main companies that have over 90% control over the world insulin market right now. It's Eli Lilly, forgive me if I pronounce the names wrong, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, or Sanofi, I don't know. But they dominate more than 90% of the insulin world market. And that means that only like one of these companies or supply insulin in a country, and which means they are a monopoly. Okay, they are able to set the price to whatever they want because no one can compete with them, and they can set prices as they wish. And in some countries, notably like China and India, there are domestic insulin companies that can help drive down the price. But with these three companies in the U.S., they don't have that. So they need more of these domestic insulin companies to be able to drive the price down and increase competition. Another big problem and factor is that there is no generic insulin.
And actually, there's one company now that's trying to change that, and they have two, I guess, stations or buildings, offices here, right here in California, where we're based. And this project, or company you could call it, Open Insulin, was founded with the making a generic, cheap, affordable, and effective insulin available to the people here in America. And what they want to do is build an all-in-one system that that takes advantage of E. coli and yeast cells to produce insulin and then purify it for later use. So all hope isn't lost, but the current situation is very bleak with the insulin market and insulin prices.
At least it's good to hear that there is hope for the. At least it's not. Hopefully, it's not going to stay this high. But to talk about more of right now, why generic insulin is like a very big. Why having no generic insulin is a cause for the price being so high is there's not a lot of market incentive for biosimilars to manufacture insulin generically because it costs a lot of money to do so, and not to mention the current companies like Novo Nordisk and the big three, they have their own biosimilars who are manufacturing insulin at a lower cost, not generically, and that reduces the price to about 10 to 15%. But as you see, like the price is so high right now, it doesn't really make a notable difference. So let's move into patents because insulin, like I remembered, so I read this article that the original patent for insulin was actually set at $1. So insulin's original price was only $1. And I mean, as you see now, I mean, it's changed rapidly. So Indiva, you want to give us some insight into what's going on with the patent situation?
Sure, yeah. So the original patent for insulin has expired. It expired in 2014. But we still see these major pharmaceutical companies dominate the markets. And that's very interesting because we'd expect, hundreds of smaller companies to start synthesizing their own insulin and taking over the market. But we don't. And it's likely from the high startup costs that are associated with any biomedical or drug industry. These behemoths and monopolists have too much control and influence over the market that it gets hard for smaller companies to synthesize their own insulin. And, with the legal power and the financial backing that these big companies have, there's kind of no hope for small industries to enter the insulin market and make a meaningful difference.
Yeah, this prevents competition, and that just keeps drug costs ever higher. So, moving to the political side of this, so the big three companies, they make billions. Not millions. You heard me right. Billions of dollars in profits, and we know that they spend millions on marketing, but they also spend millions on lobbying, and lobbyists go and influence the government officials to pass bills or laws or prevent them from passing bills or laws that would limit the insulin prices and harm the profits that those big three companies have been making. They're called pharmaceutical lobbyists. And these big three companies pay those lobbyists to go and basically better help them and their businesses function, make more profits, and not have any bills or anything harm the insulin market for them at least. And they also donate to many decision makers to keep them quiet about the price gouging. And keeping the same, I guess, general trend of paying off, they also pay off many influencers, key leaders, and there's two main organizations, the American Diabetes Association and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And they have accepted huge sums from insulin manufacturers. And this is just going to keep it very hard for the price of insulin to come down because these big three companies are just going to keep increasing their control on the insulin market. So let's talk into manufacturing cost of insulin versus kind of the selling cost that companies have been setting it at. So Joe Biden, he's actually come out, made a statement, I think in March, and he kind of gave insight into exactly the insulin market right now and how it only costs around $10 to manufacture one vial of insulin. Now, the price of insulin right now is around 30 times that. Yes, that means that right now the price of insulin is around $300 to $400. It varies for the company. And this is all accurate information coming from our president. And this is what allows these companies to make billions of dollars. And the overall trends, I guess, in the price controls in the recent years is that in the last 20 years, the prices have been increasing. In 2008, 5 vials were about $50. That's about $10 per vial. So it cost about $10, and they were selling it at pretty much cost. Now you come to here in 2022, it's $300 for just one vial. One vial. So that's about, $1,500 for 5 vials, just because of these big three companies. So you see how big of a problem. I mean, you're putting a price on basically people's lives in a way, because, I mean, people with diabetes, they need insulin to be able to live, and just you're basically putting a price on that, which, I mean, is, in my opinion, that's not the right thing to do. That's not reasonable. So let's talk about how there have been taken steps by the government, the media, and just the public to prevent the price of insulin from being so high. How they've tried to help bring it down. So, Endeavor, you want to help us with that?
Yeah, sure. So no discussion on pharmaceutical costs and healthcare companies can be done without discussing Representative Katie Porter here from California. And she's made it her mission to tackle pharmaceutical CEOs and healthcare companies and shine a bright light on their price gouging and how much they charge for their drugs and therapies. She's been a staunch advocate for reducing prices on insulin, and she's held numerous sessions in front of Congress with healthcare CEOs, pharmaceutical CEOs, and just talking to them about how they raise prices but don't actually improve their drugs, and the frankly shady tactics that are used to get more money from the American people. And a lot of these pharmaceutical companies are actually funded in part by taxpayer dollars through government grants and through government legislation. So essentially, we're putting money into these companies and they're charging us back exactly for what we put in. So Katie Porter, very great congresswoman, doing great work in addressing the issues at hand.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. I mean, this part of the segment is to reassure people that that the price of insulin will not be high for long. So I have some information that in March of 2022, the House of Representatives passed the Affordable Insulin Act to cap insulin at $35 a month for most Americans. And this act will be, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be instated for about till January of 2024, which is reassuring. For the next 2 years, you should be, the price of insulin should come down greatly. And so this bill did get adversity from pharmaceutical lobbyists that are being paid by the big three companies, trying to stop this bill from being passed to drive down the price of insulin, because all it does is kind of hurt their profits, and that's just what they were trying to prevent. They're only looking out for themselves, not the people. And the media also has views of these public. There have been public protests, and their media's view is actually not split. Like, you think it's a very political case, like Republicans, Democrats, they each take different sides, but actually it got support from both sides. I mean, that's how the bill got passed. Republicans, Democrats, they came together, they realized that this is an issue that affects everybody. They are on the same side, and the media is not split either. The media portrays that the rising insulin prices is a problem in our country, and they've been showcasing the public protests as a just and reasonable cause for these high, ridiculous prices. So, Endeavor, do you think we will see the price of insulin fall to affordable levels in the following months, years, or will they continue to rise again?
I sure hope so, but it depends on who we elect to Congress, and the people we have representing us in government. Overall, public sentiment is pretty united. Everyone wants to see lower drug costs, and because that benefits everyone and the community as a whole. Community as a whole. So I have faith that it'll come down, though it will take a lot of work from the people we send to Congress and the politicians we have in power right now.
Oh, do you think these? Okay, so this is, I guess, more of a morality question. I mean, there's gonna be split views on this, but do you think these businesses should be selling this drug at cost, or should they be allowed to make a profit from it?
This is a very tough question because, on one hand, these companies are providing a drug that's literally saving lives. People depend on these insulin drugs and other drugs. So, on one hand, it's kind of unfair to say that these companies shouldn't profit at all from something that they've been able to commercialize and the effort that they've put into research and development to make a life-saving drug. But then the line is kind of blurry. How much profit can we have these companies make? What's acceptable? So my position is that these companies, it's okay for them to make money. They have a great product that saves lives, but I don't think that the current prices are acceptable, and that at the current price, it's unnecessary, and frankly taking advantage of people who really need insulin and other medications in general.
Yeah, I actually agree with that point. I think technically these businesses, they still need to make profit to actually function, to be able to be successful. I mean, the prices right now, they are outrageous, ridiculous. I mean, they need to go. They need to go down fast. But these businesses, they still need to survive. So I'd say that they can make some profit, but there has to be a fine line between putting such a big cost on people's lives, because this is supposed to save lives, and if it's not able to be accessible by everyone, what's the point? What's the point of having it in the first place? You know what I mean? So I think that there should be a line, kind of this gray area, like you were saying, where you have a reasonable price for where everyone can buy it, and also maybe the government can take in steps to actually, if people still can't afford it, they can take in steps for welfare programs, like stuff like that. Insurance can take care of things like that, so to help people be able to actually purchase it. So I think prices of insulin should come down, but I think businesses should be able to make some profit to be successful. Thank you for talking on the podcast today, Endeavor. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the Communications and Health podcast. Again, every Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are going to be educating you entertainingly. I guess it's edutainment on everything health. Endeavor, thank you for coming on the show today. We will see you on Thursday. Thank you for watching. Take it easy. Peace.